I hope you are well. June Allen here from juneallen.net, and I am your racial sobriety mentor. And I help you heal from the impact of racism through 12-step recovery, personal empowerment, and all that good stuff. So I hope you are well. And while I'm just waiting for a few more people to come in, I'm going to just share the page to my group. So if you just give me a moment, let's have a look here. Okay, so let me just go back to my, there I am. So I'm just going to share to my page. There we go. And then also share to my group. There we go. And then we can get started. Okay, so that's done there. Right, so I hope you are all had a really, really good day. Let me just see my notes up here. So let me introduce myself again. My name is June Allen from juneallen.net, and I teach you how to heal from the impact of racism through personal empowerment and racial sobriety. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really, really excited about what I've got to teach you today. So today's topic is all about 7 things that you can do if you can't afford therapy. So if you know someone that you think might be interested in this topic, or you know someone that really, really wants therapy but wants some alternatives to do, or what basically what they can do if they're broke, they can't afford therapy, and they want some alternatives, so share it with them. Share this broadcast with them if you think they might need it. Okay, so this broadcast is also inspired by my free ebook, 7 Steps to Unlock Your Sista Superpowers. I love this book because it gives you so many tips, tools, and encouragement, inspiration, all about the stuff that you've already got, the superpowers that are already inside you, not the kind of over the top fantasies that we put onto ourselves or other Black women about what we should or shouldn't be doing in our lives, but the core sacredness of who we are, the core things that we have at our disposal, that are at our disposal at all times, that we forget about. So the Superpowers book is there to remind you of your inner greatness that's already there, and it gives you some tools and ideas to actually pull that stuff out so you can really begin to take care of yourself and love yourself. So if you're interested in that ebook's absolutely free. Just go to superpowers.juneallen.net. Okay, so let's get into the content. So for those of you that were with me last week, I spoke about 5 hidden conversations, the hidden conversations that were underneath I can't afford therapy. And I had a really good response to that one, actually, because there was a lot of people that actually, it made them think a lot about, it's easy to be flippant about saying, oh, I can't afford it, but really had to question themselves as to really understand, okay, well, what might be going on underneath it that I'm not being honest with myself about. So if you haven't actually listened to that one, it'd be a really good idea to go back and listen to that. It's in my if you go on my page, on my my Yard of Greatness business page, you'll find the video there just from last week. So have a go, watch that one, and then if you watch that and you realize it's none of those things that I spoke about last week, then obviously this one is for you, because this one is specifically for people that just, you've gone through all of that stuff I talked about last week and you just really can't afford it. It really is basically a financial issue. So this one is really going to help you with these things, and I'm excited to share. So obviously, real talk, therapy, it can be expensive. It can be expensive. And, if you're seeing a really good therapist once a week, you could be paying, anything from kind of £30 up to £200. It just depends on the type of therapist that you have. It depends on the type of treatments that you're having. So I understand that it can work out to be really quite expensive. And obviously, if you're seeing the therapist once a week, and that's a lot of money. And for a lot of people, spending that sort of money on therapy is basically, it's not an option for a lot of people. So it's hard, because if you know that you need that extra support and you haven't got the money, then what do you do? It's really, really difficult. The impact of that, the impact of not having that support is that you just end up more frustrated. You end up, the symptoms that you're experiencing, if you're really depressed or whatever, that can just be exacerbated by the fact that you just can't afford to have therapy. So, yeah, it's a lot to think about. It's a lot to think about. So what I've done is I've created 7 different things for you to think about, to explore, to research, some things that you can do. Hi, thanks for joining. Yeah, so it's important to think about these things, because it is expensive, and you want to be able to find not just something that you're going to be able to do in the short term, but something long term that's going to help you with your well-being. Because as Black people, it's important for us to have an ongoing some sort of ritual practice for us to take care of ourselves, and including therapy. It's important for us to do that. So I hope these 7 solutions are going to help you. So number 1, the first thing to remember is that a lot of therapists actually have a sliding scale. If you go on their website, a lot of them might just have one price. But quite often, if you ask them, sometimes they might not always put it on their website. Quite often they'll have like a sliding scale. What that means is, whether if you're low income, or what, depending on whatever you earn, whatever your salary is, they've got a sliding scale of prices for people depending on what your income is. So it's always a really good idea to ask the therapist, have a conversation with them, and just say, look, do you have a sliding scale? That's what I did with mine. And I because I'm in the process of studying and all the rest of it as well. I've been with this therapist. Hi, thanks for joining. Yeah, I've been with this therapist for quite some time. My therapist sessions are on a sliding scale, and also my therapist knows the work that I'm doing, and I think it's kind of his way of trying to support the fact that I'm really committed to this and that I'm willing to do it. So yeah, just talk to them and find out if they do, if they're able to do the sessions on a sliding scale. And that's going to make a massive difference. Even if it's only £10-15 or whatever cheaper than what you would normally pay, that's going to make a huge difference. So yeah, so always ask them about that. Number 2 is think about going to see like a university or college that actually is training psychotherapists. Quite often you'll have students there that are in their final year that that actually start having sessions with the public. Quite often those sessions, they're not doing the sessions on their own. They'll quite often do it with a tutor or something. That's, you're not just going to be left to your own devices with a student that's kind of just learning how to get to grips with what it means to work with clients and stuff like that. You will have somebody else who's more experienced that's going to be supporting you in the process. So and in those cases as well, you'll find that the sessions are significantly cheaper. I mean, when I was researching for this this live, I found some sessions online that were just like £15-20, so they're out there. You've just got to look. You've just got to look. If you want something, if you want this stuff, you've just got to be willing to keep looking, keep asking, keep digging, and you'll find stuff. You'll find stuff. You might find that as well, that if you do decide that you want to work with students, with final year students, that you might be asked to commit to the sessions for a period of time, at least, so they can so they can monitor the work and monitor the progress and all that kind of stuff. So, but again, it's about having a conversation with them. And obviously, if the session is really not working for you, then obviously, you don't have to stay there. Obviously, don't put yourself at risk. But just be aware that that might be one of the criteria with you working with some of the students. So that's number 2. So number three is, group therapy, group coaching. Group sessions are always they're always really, I think people forget sometimes that, you know, when you think of therapy, people automatically think of one-on-one sessions, but you can have group therapy as well. So look at that option, and that is going to make a significant difference in the price as well, because obviously there's a lot more people that are going to be attending the session. It's not just that one-on-one thing with the therapist. Obviously, the more exclusive time you have with that therapist, the more expensive your sessions are going to be. So and also, like, if you're in group therapy, that can be just as powerful in many ways, because then you understand in how you relate to other people. It might take a little bit more time to kind of understand and get comfortable with, you know, sharing personal things in a group setting. That might not always be appropriate for you to do that, but you can also learn a lot from what other people share. You know, I've learned a lot from, I haven't done a lot of group therapy, but obviously being in recovery and stuff like that, I've been in group settings, and it's really powerful just hearing other people share the identification, the empathy, the compassion, and just hearing other people sharing their truth, especially if you're with other people in the same community as you. That can be incredibly powerful, you know. So definitely think about that. You know, group therapy or group sessions, group coaching, wellness sessions is, you know, a massive thing for you to think about. And again, that's going to really have an impact on the cost as well. So that's a really, really good one to think about. Okay, so number 4 is we're talking about the government option. So obviously in the UK, we've got the NHS. You know, you can get free therapy sessions on the NHS, but obviously, you know, with that, there's going to be the issue around there's going to be a waiting list. Obviously, you know, quite often there's a waiting list, and you don't know, you can't really choose who your therapist is going to be, really. I mean, it's going to be a case of, well, if that practice does it, and then you're going to just basically get what you're given in many ways. It might not be for every single borough, but I'm just talking generally here. But obviously, you need to speak to your you know, your GP and stuff around that. But yeah, so, you know, it is available on the NHS, but you're just going to have to you know, explore it and just see, you know, what the offerings are. Also as well, you know, if you do have the government as well also has they have charity helplines as well that are kind of linked to, or might be funded by the government to help people. So, you know, there are going to be various charities and stuff that might help you with stuff. So, and, you know, they're going to have specific helplines and stuff as well to help people. I've used a lot of those helplines myself. There were many times when I was going through the early stages of my process where, you know, particularly when my daughter was really young and I didn't have anyone to talk to. Even when I was in therapy, I didn't have anyone to talk to. You know, quite often it was late at night when I was on my own and just feeling really isolated and in a lot of pain around specific things. It was really, really difficult. It was really, really difficult. And I found that, you know, a lot of those support helplines, like, really, really useful, because number one, they're anonymous, so you don't have to give all your personal information and whatnot. And so, and quite often, you know, they were really good just to have somebody that doesn't know anything about my situation at the time, to just have someone just to listen to me and to hear me. And that, I found that really, really powerful. I found that really, really healing to be able to do it. So yeah, just don't discount, you know, the power of those telephone helplines that the government quite often put out, or charities quite often put out to support people. The other thing to remember as well, that, you know, have a look on your insurance. You know, it might be that your insurance has clauses around well-being and stuff like that. This might be the case in the States, and maybe not. I don't know if it'd be like that in the UK, but I'm sure they've got it. But this might be relevant to more people that don't live in the UK, because obviously you don't have a you know, like a health service like we have here in the UK. So yeah, just check your insurance policy to see if it covers therapy in any way, and then obviously you can get your therapy done that way. What else have I got here? Number 5 is the recovery room. See how I'm smiling? I'm smiling because for me, the recovery rooms are one of the most powerful ways that you can get help with your well-being. And it's absolutely, recovery is absolutely free. You know, recovery is absolutely free. Meetings are free. You know, they do have a situation where you can just put, you know, you can make a donation, when you go to each meeting, but it's not compulsory, you know. And then I've been in quite a few meetings where they even say, look, you know, if you do have any money, don't, if you're new and you're still figuring all of this stuff out, don't pay any money, don't make a donation, actually use the money to buy literature, use the money to start, you know, paying for the books and stuff like that are going to help you to begin to get sober. So, you know, whatever your addiction is, and just remember as well, it's not just about drinking drugs. It's so easy for people to say, to just default to, oh, they're talking about alcohol, or they're talking about, you know, heroin or whatever. Yes, those things are part of addiction, but remember that addiction, and when it comes to addiction and recovery, it's not just about substance. It can be gambling, it can be food, it can be relationships, you know. And there's not only people that are active addicts, but there are also recovery programs for people that are family members of addicts as well. So whatever your situation is, and for as far as Black people are concerned, you know, we have got so much stuff to deal with, trauma to deal with, and a lot of our coping mechanisms that we use, codependency, relationships, you know, the way that we abandon ourselves under the system of racism. There's so much stuff that's going on for us living under this system. There's a lot of us that do act out in addiction, that have hidden addictions that we haven't, you know, that we're struggling to cope with our feelings. Hi, thanks for joining. So, you know, don't just kind of discount the whole thing around addiction just because you don't, you know, you don't have the kind of default behaviors around addiction. If you want to find out more about racial sobriety and addiction, you can go to firstThingsFirst.JuneAllen.net. That's firstThingsFirst.JuneAllen.net. Hi, Leah. Nice to see you. I hope you're okay. Yeah, I'm just talking about 7 things to do if you can't afford therapy today. I hope you're well. I hope you're good. So recovery for me has been one of the most powerful things that you can do, one of the most powerful ways that you can, you know, kind of, and do you know what? There's a lot of therapists that go there. There's a lot of therapists that are in them recovery rooms, because that's just kind of like an addition to, you know, their healing. You know, any good therapist or coach or whatever is going to have their own really good support network as well. They're going to have their own support network, because when you're looking after other people, it's important that you have your own healing process in place as well, because you need to be able to, you know, talk about that stuff, unload that stuff, unpick the stuff that's going on for you when you're dealing with clients as well. It's really important. So yeah, it is really important to be able to do that. So just remember that recovery is such an important part. I cannot stress that enough, how important going to recovery is. And this is the main reason that I'm doing this work. You know, yes, I've got a therapist and I see a therapist really regularly, but you know, I've been in recovery alongside. I actually chose to do therapy and recovery alongside each other, because therapy helped me have that 1 hour per week where I was able to just talk to my therapist, get stuff out, you know, be honest about what was going on for me. And I have that 1 hour for myself where I could just offload on what was going on. And then recovery on the other side was more about connecting with the community of other people that were going through this exactly the same thing as me. And, you know, building up, almost like building a family of choice. And actually hearing other people. Obviously with my therapist, the relationship was kind of more like, when I first started working with my therapist, I suppose he was more like a pseudo dad, and I was kind of like the daughter. He became kind of like a stand-in dad. But as time's gone on, and I've spent, you know, I've kind of worked with him, now it kind of feels more like he's a big brother, and, you know, I'm kind of like a sister. You know, it's the dynamics changed a lot. As I've grown and healed, the dynamic of that relationship has changed. So obviously he is still a therapist. So there's still that boundary around him being, you know, a therapist. But in recovery, there isn't that boundary around, you know, somebody else is kind of in a different position of power or whatever. So hi, thanks for joining. So yeah, so basically recovery is powerful, because you just been in a whole group of peers that are all doing the same thing. They're all doing the same thing. They're all trying to get well from the same illness. And so it becomes a very, very powerful way to share and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a very, very powerful way to, you know, express how you feel and understand other people's point of view, and really have an idea of how you can heal just listening to other people's stories and stuff like that. So, you know, I can go on and on about recovery, as you know. So yeah, so recovery is number 5. So very, very powerful, very, very powerful if you can't afford it. So number 6 is this one. I've discovered this one recently, actually, and it's a really sweet little app. It's called 7 Cups of Tea, this app. And what it is it's absolutely free. It's anonymous. And what you do is you can basically just go on this app, and you have people that they go through a training. They're basically just active listeners. So I suppose it's almost like a telephone helpline, but it's like online. It's free. So you just log on, and then you just type talk whatever's going on for you, and this person will just listen to you. They might share some feedback or whatever, but it's a very simple way of connecting with somebody if you're not feeling, you know, if you're not feeling great or whatever, and you just want somebody to talk to. So that's called, this app is called it's www.7cups.com. 7cups.com. I'll put it in the note in the comments when I finished, or put it in the description. But if you start talking to these people on this app, and you decide that you do want to see a therapist, you can actually do that as well. They can actually refer you to a therapist online, and then you can have a text conversation with a therapist. It's not free, that one, to actually speak to a therapist, but the listeners are. So this one would be, again, a great one to use if it was late at night, if you were going through some stuff and you just really wanted somebody to talk to. This would be a really, really good one. So the listeners have to go through some sort of training before they actually, you know, qualify to be listeners. And then obviously the therapists are all qualified therapists and stuff. So I love that one, you know, just a little simple app that you can go on and share your truth. They've also got groups in there as well. So if you don't want to speak to somebody one-on-one, you can actually go into an online group. And, you know, the groups, I think they're segregated into different categories and stuff like that. So then obviously if you want to talk about something specific, then, you know, you can talk about them then. Hi, thanks for joining. Welcome. Thanks for hanging out. So yeah, so the group chat I think is a great option, because then you can just go in and just participate, be part of a tribe, and just share your truth and have an opportunity to connect with other people that might be going through the same thing. You know, at the end of the day, we all just want to belong. We all just want to have the opportunity to connect with people. And sometimes that can be hard, especially if you're a parent and you just want to be able to hang out with people. So yeah, so it's really good to be able to do that. So this app, I think, is a really good opportunity to do this. I'm just going to check the comments quickly. I'm just seeing that a few people have been coming in. I can't see any more of the comments, unfortunately. But anyway, so if you've got any questions or anything, just put them in the chat box. I always watch the program afterwards, and I'll go in and answer any questions in a lot more personal way. So just put any questions and stuff that you've got in there, and I will definitely answer those for you. So number 7, the last one, and this is really big, and this is to think long term about, you know, your well-being, because, you know, as Black people living under the system of racism, it's important for us, just even that aside, you know, having to deal with family, having to deal with a lot of things that we have to deal with, you know, quite often we don't really think about our well-being as a long-term thing. We just think about it, you know, it's not just about therapy. It shouldn't just be something that we think about when we're in crisis, is what I'm trying to say. Our well-being is something that we need to be thinking about as an ongoing practice, as an ongoing daily ritual. So it is important for us to think about that as like we do with anything else, like we would plan our goals with anything else. You know, we think about if we're going on holiday, we think about if we want to buy a house, we think about if we're saving up to buy a car, or all of these things. Our well-being is also an important part of that conversation. And it's important for us, if you're really serious about your well-being and you really want to, have therapy, then, it's really important to think about some ways that you can actually do that. Have a look at your finances and just see, okay, are there things that I'm paying for at the moment that you don't use? Are there subscriptions that you don't use? Are there things that are coming out of your bank account that you'd completely forgotten about, that you just think, oh, you know what, I don't need that, I can use that money towards having therapy or some sort of my well-being practice. And I have a separate bank account, where all my self-care stuff comes out of. My therapist comes out of there, any stuff that I do to, any yoga, massage, and I put a little bit of money into that account every single month to make sure that I take care of my well-being, and I have to use that money towards my well-being. It's so important, and there's not enough of us that are doing that, and it's important for us to prioritize. It doesn't matter if it's even £10, £5, whatever it is that you can afford at this particular time. Just make sure that that money is in there, so at least you know that you are going to, even if it's £5, you know that you're going to have £5 to spend on something. And maybe you go and buy yourself a nice cream, or you save up over a long period of time. When you go, okay, well, I'm going to have one massage once a quarter. I'm going to save up £5 a week or whatever it is you can afford, and I'm going to have a massage once a quarter. Whatever it is that you can afford, around your self-care and your well-being, it's important that you put that stuff to one side, because it's important. And your well-being is an ongoing thing. It's not, like I was saying before, it's not just something that, to deal with when you're in a crisis. It's something that has to be ongoing. And for me, it's like non-negotiable. My well-being is something that's non-negotiable. This is something that needs to happen. It needs to happen. And so I'm in a situation now where I'm willing to put other things down. I'm willing to put other things down to the side to make sure that I have my therapy sessions and that I have, my self-care things are put in place. But it's taken me a long time to put those things in place. But, I had to go through a period of really understanding and being honest about what my values are. And if I really want to be a really good parent, if I really want to do well in my career, if I really want to be able to support the people that I'm working with and be sober and be, really well, really clear about who I am as a mentor, if I'm going to be a good mentor for people and stuff like that, to be doing the work myself, I have to be practicing what I preach, so for me, it's non-negotiable for me to be taking care of myself. So in order to do that, I also have to put the money aside in order to do it. So it's about prioritizing. No matter how small that money is, it's about prioritizing and putting that money aside. If you put a small amount aside today, you'll be surprised at how quickly that money will mount up. And before you know it, you'll be able to afford it, and plan ahead. Plan ahead. Don't, having therapy, getting the money for therapy and well-being is not just going to, fall into your lap. You have to be intentional about it. You have to be intentional about wanting to heal, about wanting to really take care of yourself around this stuff. It's not just going to happen on its own or because you think it. You've got to be proactive about it. There's a lot of us that talk about wanting to be well. There's a lot of us that want to get well, but there's a disconnect between what we say and what we think and what we do. And the wellness is not just going to happen by thinking about it, by just wishing it's going to happen. It's not just going to happen on its own. You've got to be intentional about it. So, and even if you do get a therapist, let's just say you get the money together and you do decide to go and get a therapist every week. There still needs to be a practice of rituals in between when you see your therapist. Because when you go and see a therapist for an hour or whatever, and you go home, there's stuff that needs to be processed. What you're going to do when stuff comes up around stuff that you spoke about in the therapist session. This is really, really important to remember, because a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to go to therapy and I'll dump there and then I'll go home and everything will be fine. No. It's also important for you to have the space for yourself in between those sessions so you can continue the nurturing process. You have to be able to continue that nurturing process when you at your when you're not therapy. And that is really, really important. And a lot of people don't always think about that, but that is one of the key things to remember about, you know, your wellness and you know, having therapy, that you've got to do the work in between, you know. So, and even if you can't afford to have a therapist, doing the wellness thing as well is a really good place to start. Doing the wellness thing on your own at home, you know, giving yourself 30 minutes a day or however long you've got, and to start doing the work. One of the reasons why I actually have a training called Reclaim Your Blackness. And one of the reasons that I actually did that training in the first place is for people that can't afford therapy, number one, because it's an opportunity for people to understand their own triggers and to put a ritual in place for them to be able to really start to understand what's going on for them and how to create some systems on a daily basis for you to be able to take care of yourself every single day. There's a whole list of characteristics in there around what happens to us under the system of racism, or whatever's going on in your family at whatever time. So you can pick out which ones, you know, really identify with you. And then I have a 3-step system, what people can use on a daily basis to help to start to build a relationship with yourself, to help to build a relationship with yourself. And there's 3 steps to that. You've got to be able to discharge the energy out of your body. So whatever's going on for you, whether you're having a difficult time with a family member, whether you are an addict and you're struggling with that, whether you're a parent and, you know, you might be a single parent or whatever, you know, these are all things that are going to create stress. Apart from living under the system of racism, you know, there are internal things within our community, within our families, that are going to create stress for us. So being able to discharge that stuff out of your psyche and out of your body is really important. The next thing is to reflect, to be able to reflect on what's happened. So you've got rid of the stuff out of your psyche. Now you're going to reflect on, you know, what happened. Why did I react the way that I reacted? What do I need to do now to take care of myself? So that's the 3rd step. The 3rd step is to nurture. Now, what am I going to do to take care of myself? How can I practice self-compassion? This is what this Reclaim Your Blackness training is about. So it gives you an opportunity to really understand what your needs are. And I've put all my own personal rituals, and, you know, there's 30 tools in there. 10 to discharge, 10 to reflect, and 10 to nurture. So you've got loads to choose from in there, and you can add your own. But it gives you the opportunity to begin to really to start to take ownership for what you can do, you know, in your own time if you can't afford therapy. If you're interested in that training, you can go to reclaim.juneallen.net. I also share, you know, my own process, my own journey in that training as well. Yeah, it's one of the first trainings that I did, and I'm really proud of it, because it really, you know, if people say to me, oh, where should I start? Where do I start with all of this? I always tell people to go to that training, because it's a great little package to be able to help you to understand, you know, what's going on for you, and to give you a foundational point to really begin to start to build the daily rituals and processes that you need to be doing every single day to help you to manage your emotions and to start to become more emotionally intelligent as well. Because, you know, self-care isn't just about what you do physically. It's about also what you do in terms of you know, in terms of your emotional well-being as well. I've just seen some more people that have just joined, actually. Hi, for those of you who joined. If you don't know me, my name is June Allen from juneallen.net, and I teach people how to heal from the impact of racism through 12-step recovery and racial sobriety. So thanks for joining. Thank you for tuning to hang out with me today. So the last thing that I wanted to just briefly share with you before I kind of do the recap is the whole concept of also remembering that, you know, in the Superpowers book that I also have, the free book and audio, is go to superpowers.juneallen.net. You know, there's 7 tools there that remind you of the tools that you have already within you to start to take care of yourself. And some of the things that I talk about in the Superpowers book, again, these are 7 tools that I live by that help me to stay sober, to stay calm, to find a sense of peace when things feel insane. And the 7 things that I talk about are solitude, courage, culture, compassion, sobriety, femininity, self-knowledge, or emotional intelligence. Yeah, these are 7 amazing things, 7 amazing things that we often forget. We forget about how to use them, or we can be so shut down, you know, with who we are, that we just haven't got access to these things. We don't have access to these things because we feel so shut down. So that's why, you know, again, this free ebook that I created is important, because it just helps you to remember that you do have a lot more things at your disposal. You know, it's easy. It can be easy to think that, you know, therapy is something that is going to fix everything. You know, you can put everything on the therapist or your mentor or whoever it is, that, oh, you know, if I just go to therapy, that it's going to fix everything. It doesn't fix everything. You know, you have to do as much work as that therapist. The therapist is not there to kind of make everything perfect for you. You know, you have to be willing to open up. You have to be willing to find the courage to speak your truth. You have to be willing to do the work in between the recovery sessions. You have to be willing to show up and look at the stuff that you might not really want to look at, you know? So I think it's really important to, you know, not kind of make the whole conversation about therapy like some sort of fantasy where the therapist is going to be able to fix all your problems. That's not what therapists are there for. The therapists are there to kind of help you and open you up, to help you see maybe what you can't see, to help you understand what you can't understand, to help you unpack your pain, to help you unpack your past, and to give you hope that you are able to do the things that you really, really want to do, to provide a space for you to be able to see what's possible. That's the power of therapy. That's what therapy has done for me. It's helped me to understand, you know, my own humanity, and helped me understand how powerful it is to connect with somebody else who has boundaries, to connect with somebody else who looks like me, that can support me, to understand what support looks like, to understand what it looks like for somebody else to be able to care for you and take care of you. That's what you're really investing in. You know, the money is one thing, but you have to invest emotionally as well in therapy. You know, it's not just about the money. So it's about being really clear about these things and just understanding the value of it. You know, sometimes I get so frustrated because people are so quick to talk about how expensive therapy is, but this is about your life. You know, if you're a parent, this is about how you're going to be raising your children. All of this stuff is so important, you know, and don't be so quick to jump to, oh, it's really expensive. What value is it going to be giving you? That is priceless. That's priceless, what therapy is going to be giving you. So focus more on what it's going to give you rather than how much it's going to cost. Yes, cost is an issue, but you've got to look beyond the cost. And if you understand what therapy is going to give you, then, you know, the cost is going to be a secondary thing, because you'll find the money. Because I certainly found the money. Once I realized how valuable it is, I found the money. If you can find a good therapist, it's worth the money. You know, my therapy that I've paid is worth every penny. It's worth every single penny, you know. And also it's also worth thinking about, okay, so you're thinking about the cost. What is going to be the emotional cost if you don't do it? Think about that. What is going to be the emotional cost to your well-being if you don't have therapy? You've got to think about these things as well. What's going to be the cost to your relationships if you don't have therapy? You know? So all of these things that I've spoken to you about today, these are just stepping stones to help you on the road to, you know, getting a good therapist, saving up the money. You know, if it's your birthday coming up, ask for people for money to pay for therapy. You know, there's nothing wrong in doing that. This is about your well-being, because when you feel better, you're going to be able to show up in the world from a much more authentic place. And that is so powerful. It's really, really powerful to be able to do that. So let me just recap the 7 things that you can do if you can't afford therapy. So number 1, when you're talking to therapists, you know, ask them if they have a sliding scale, depending on your, you know, what you earn. So they'll have, you know, if you're low cost, if you're not working or whatever, you know, find out if they do. Some of them do pro bono as well. Actually, I should have said that before. Some of them might even do it for free. You know, if you're not working, it's always, you've got to be willing to ask the questions and ask for help. You know, so number one is the sliding scale. Number two, think about student counsellors, student therapists. So go to colleges and universities for final year students that are working with clients with their tutors and stuff like that. That is also a very, you know, really good low cost option. Number three, think about group coaching, group therapy, wellness spaces. There is something as well, actually. If you are, there's something that I am thinking about doing as well. If you are really interested in joining a wellness space, be it a book club or something like that around wellness, email me at info@yardofgreatness.com, because, you know, I'm hearing a lot of people that are talking about stuff, but I want to be able to gauge, you know, if you're willing to start doing the work, then I'm more than happy to kind of provide a space to be able to start doing that. So if you're really interested in really digging in and getting started doing the work, then definitely please email me info@yardofgreatness.com. So that's group sessions. Yeah, so that's group therapy. Okay, so number four is obviously the government options. You know, go to your GP, or in the UK we've got the NHS. Find out if there's a waiting list, find out if they have any options or whatever for you to be able to have therapy for your local borough. If you're in the States or you're in other countries and you're watching, and, you know, you don't have like a government space like we do have here in the UK, you know, check your insurance to see if your insurance covers it as well. Because that's obviously something that's going to be really helpful to you. And also, you know, there may be charities and stuff like that that do that offer spaces for you to go and have free or low cost therapy. They also may have support lines, helplines that may help with short-term issues as well if you're really having a hard time at the moment. And as I was saying earlier, because they've really helped me, especially in early recovery when I was at rock bottom. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was just in a lot of pain, but you know, those helplines actually really helped me. So yeah, so use those. Number five, my favorite obviously is the recovery rooms. Go to firstthingsfirst.juneallen.net. The link is in the description of this live. You know, the recovery rooms are an amazing place for you to be able to get support if you can't afford therapy. They're absolutely free. You can make a donation if you want to or not, but they're really going to help you to, you know, be around other people that are trying to get well. You can start to make connections with other people going through the same thing as you, depending on whatever your addiction is. Yeah, so if you want more information about that, actually, if you go to sobriety.juneallen.net, I've got loads of free resources there as well for you to find out more about racial sobriety. I'll put the link in the description. So if you go to sobriety.juneallen.net, there's loads of information there about the recovery process and loads of free resources there as well. So that's number five. Number six is a really sweet little app called 7 Cups of Tea. And if you go to www.7cups.com, 7 cups, that's 7, the number 7, cups.com. I'll put the link in the description. And this is a free, anonymous online platform for people to share, you know, if they're not feeling well and stuff like that, if they're not feeling up to scratch. They've got people that are active listeners that can listen to you and help you with stuff, give feedback if you want it. And if you do find that you want to see a therapist, the listeners are absolutely free. So you can log on and speak to somebody absolutely free. But if you actually want to schedule some time with a therapist on that platform, then you do have to pay for it. But obviously, you know, if you don't have the money, then just speak to the listeners. It's just another opportunity for you to be able to speak to somebody online, you know, and get some support. And the last one, number 7, is think about your well-being long term. You know, if your well-being is really important to you, then it's important to have a plan in place long term. If you are really interested in getting started with taking care of yourself, because the ritual has to be in between. Even if you do decide to see a therapist, it's important to have your rituals and your self-care routines in place in between the therapy sessions. So I was talking earlier about the training that I have called how I reclaim your blackness. So if you go to reclaim.juneallen.net, you can find out more about that training there. If you would like to speak to me, you can email me info@yardofgreatness.com. If you'd like to schedule a call with me, one-on-one session, you can go to callme.juneallen.net. So that's it, family. If you've got any questions at all, let me just see if anybody's left any questions in the chat. Let's have a look. Can't see any more in there. If anybody has got any other questions, you can leave them in the chat box, and I will check the comments after the session. So if you've watched this or you're watching via the replay, feel free to leave your comments as well in the comment box, and because I do come back and check the comments and stuff regularly. So you can still leave your comments in the box if you've got any questions or anything you want to ask me about anything that I've discussed today. If you think somebody who might be interested in this live, somebody that really wants therapy that can't afford it, definitely, it'd be great if you could share it with them. And so thank you so much for joining me today. Just been really good to hanging out with you. So thank you so much for joining, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.